Hi, and thank you for joining me for this video. So is this Naturehike Star River 2 the best budget backpacking tent on the market? Well, in this video, we're going to have a good look at this tent so you can decide if this is the right tent for you. So this tent currently sells here in the UK for around £136. It currently comes in a choice of two colours, green or grey. This tent is also classed as a two-person, four-season tent. Now, everything you get comes in this well-made drawstring storage bag. It has a grab handle at the bottom. You've got the company logo on the front. When it comes to the size of the storage bag, it comes in at 45 centimeters by 15 centimeters, and the packed weight comes in at 2.1 kilograms. Now, 2.1 kilograms, I wouldn't class this as ultralight, but it is light enough. And when you take into account the compact size of the storage bag, this is what makes this tent ideal for backpacking. Right, let's get everything out the storage bag and have a look and see what we get for our money. So inside your storage bag, you will get some setup instructions. Everything will then come rolled and kept together with this really nice compression strap. You then get your outer fly, you get your inner tent, you then get one main pole system with a spreader pole already attached, which comes in its own little storage bag, and then you get another little storage bag which has some ground pegs and some guy lines in, and then you also get a mat or footprint included in the price of this tent, which is great because normally you have to buy a footprint separately, and that footprint is just going to give you that extra layer of protection underneath your tent. Now, when it comes to setting up this tent, the first thing you want to do is get your mat or footprint laid out and get the corners pegged out. You then want to connect your main tent pole together and then simply connect it to the corners of your mat or your footprint. Now, as mentioned earlier, you do get a spreader pole which is already attached to the main tent pole. However, you just need to connect that together. You will then notice that your main tent pole is two colors. It's a green and a silver. Now, the green side of the tent pole is the higher side and the silver side is the lower side. So when setting up your tent poles and your tent, make sure you decide what side you want the higher side of your tent and what side you want the lower side of your tent facing. You then want to get your inner tent and lay it over the top of your mat or footprint. Then connect the corners of your inner tent to your tent poles. And then all you have to do is take your inner tent and start connecting it to your main tent pole. Now we've set up the inner tent, let's have a quick look at it before we put on the outer rain floor. Now, as you can see, you get a lot of mesh on this tent around the top. That's going to encourage a nice bit of airflow, but also in turn help reduce any condensation. It's also going to help keep any insects out. At the bottom of the tent here, before you get to the bathtub floor, you get a nice wide panel which is going to help keep out any cold or any drafts, and then you get your bathtub floor. Now, the fabric on the sides here at the bottom, including your bathtub floor, are made from a 20 denier silicone coated nylon, which has a hydrostatic head rating of 4,000 millimeters. All the stitching in this tent is double stitched and all the seams are tape sealed, so it is completely waterproof. Now, this tent has two inner doors. Both the doors are half moon doors, which simply, when unzipped, can be rolled and toggled to the bottom. What I like about having two doors, if you are going to share this tent with someone, at least you're not climbing over each other to get in and out of this tent. Now, in the warmer times of the year, you can just use this inner tent on its own if it's not going to rain and enjoy a nice night out under the stars. However, on the flip side of that, some people don't like an inner pitch first tent because they say if it's raining when you're trying to set up this tent, there's a big risk of the inner tent getting really wet. So that's a decision you have to make, whether an inner pitch tent first is the right tent for you. Right, let's have a look inside this tent. Now, when it comes to the internal size of this tent, it's not a bad size for two people. The length comes in at around 215 centimeters. The width comes in at around 135 centimeters. And then the internal height comes in at around 110 centimeters. As you can see, you get a lamp hook on the ceiling, and then you get 2 storage pockets, which are both down the one end of the tent, one side and one the other. So not a bad size little tent. Now, with regards to the internal size of this tent, yes, when you look at the measurements on paper, it can be deemed as a good size for a 2-person tent. However, like most 2-person tents, trying to get 2 people in this tent would definitely be a squeeze. But for 1 person, it would be perfect, especially if you're taller, because taking into account not only the length and the width, but also you get a really nice bit of internal height in this tent. So as I say, if you are taller, this tent will definitely appeal to you. And then finally, to finish setting up your tent, all you have to do is put on your outer rain flyer, connect it to your inner tent. You then want to connect your guy lines and then simply go around, peg everything out, make a few adjustments if you need to, and you are done. Now this tent's all set up, just a few things to mention. First of all, you just get the 1 air vent down the one end of the tent. However, you don't get one down the other end, which is a shame. I would have liked to have seen 2 air vents, 1 down each end, so you can get a nice bit of airflow going into your tent. Secondly, I notice that you get 2 guy lines down this one end, but you only get 1 guy line down the other end. I would have liked to have seen a 2nd guy line down the other end to add some stability. Now, one thing I do like with this tent is that you can connect your outer fly to your inner tent, and then you can pull it out and peg it out so that your outer rain fly doesn't touch your inner tent. This is going to help get a nice bit of air going into your tent. But also, if you do get some condensation on the inside of your tent, at least it's not going to go onto your inner tent. It would simply just run down on the rain fly and to the floor. Now, when it comes to the outer rain fly of this tent, it's made from a 20 denier silicone coated nylon, and it has a hydrostatic head rating of 4,000 millimeters. And like the inside of your tent, it is double stitched and it's tape sealed, so it is completely waterproof. Now, I or other people I know who have owned this tent have never had any issues or concerns with the waterproofing. When it comes to wind resistance, this tent is more than capable in around 25, I would say, up to 30 miles per hour, which is more than enough. Now, I did mention that this tent has 2 inner doors, so it also obviously has 2 outer doors, which are great. Now, when it comes to the outer doors, you can simply unzip and roll and toggle back one panel, or you can roll and toggle back both panels, giving you a nice big entrance. Now, the zips on this tent aren't made by YKK, but they are good quality zips and they're nice and smooth. I've had no sticking or snagging with these zips. The zips are also covered with a storm flap to protect the zips from the weather. Now, you do get a little vestibule both sides of this tent, so you can simply use that for a little bit of storage, or if you sat inside your tent, you could probably do a little bit of cooking inside your vestibule. What I do like with this tent is that even with one of the panels down, if you're a taller person getting into this tent, you're not having to bend down too much to get in. So once again, as I mentioned earlier, this tent is definitely going to appeal to taller people. Now, something else just quickly to add, they do class this tent as a 4-season tent. However, as you can see, the outer fly doesn't come all the way to the ground. So for me, this tent would make an excellent 3/4-season tent. So yes, this tent would probably perform at its best in the warmer times of the year, but you could use this tent in the spring, the summer, the autumn, and I would also say the early part of winter. So my final verdict on this Naturehike Star River 2, well, I have to say I really like this tent, and I genuinely believe that this tent is one of the best budget backpacking tents on the market. Now, is it perfect? No. But then again, what tent is? But when you take into account the price and the great features you get with this tent, I think it's excellent value for money. So in saying that, I personally would highly recommend this tent. But let me know what you think about this tent, and is this tent the right tent for you? But on that note, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And lastly, don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.